to whom to civilize, in what way.
Yeah.
And really it is, becomes a little bit nonsensical to discuss this matter between we and they.
Yes.
I mean, this is really nonsense. Because you have indeed to define, give a definition what you mean by civilization, because also this veil question, that depends. That is also, you can't approach it in a monolithic way. I recently was in Iran, and so mainly you see there still, I say still because longer ago I was in Iran, and you saw hardly any veil, I mean before the revolution. But now, let's say 20 years after the revolution, you see in some places more and other places less. Everywhere veils, but in a very different way. So just to have the image that this is discriminating for women, well, in some cases it is, but in other cases it is not. So the way you are clothed, when you have a tie, I mean, there's also a silly history about why you have a tie, because it is something to hang you with.
Oh, I didn't know that.
So no, I mean, speaking about civilization. So therefore, I think one should not, let's say, to approach it more as a common issue. In certain churches in the Middle East, I remember, so that has nothing to do with Islam, because it was also preceding Islam. Let's say women are sitting at the right side of the church and men at the left side. So there is also a kind of discrimination between the two.
Distinctions are being made. Maurits, how do you respond to this idea of invitation to participate in a civilization?
Let me give you an example of the only clash of cultures I ever experienced was with a Syrian lawyer, a woman, staunch defender of women's rights, and we were discussing family law. In the Syrian and most Arab Islamic systems, they have separate laws and sometimes even separate courts for Jews, for Christians, for the many Christian communities, and for the Muslims. We don't. In Holland, there's one law for everyone. When I told her this woman had studied in England, had studied law in England. When I told her, she wasn't aware of this fact, that there's only one law here. And she freaked out, she got very angry. And she said, that's against human rights. For her, that was against human rights. So that's a denouncement of the freedom of religion, to have your own law applied. How can you in Holland deny the Jews and the Muslims and the Christians to have their own laws? And I tried to explain, well, no, and this is, I think, very Dutch or very Western, say, no, that's the equality. It's a freedom of religion based on equality. We're all the same before the law. And it was a collision, because I could understand where she was coming from. And I had a completely different view. Mm-hmm. And I don't know how we would ever solve this problem if we had not been living in different countries with our different systems.
Farid, how do you see the future of Muslims in Western Europe? Can they participate on their own grounds, on their own views, or do they have to participate under certain conditions, or they can only participate when they follow certain civilized norms? They should change themselves before they can truly participate? Or is there a possibility to participate on one's own traditional
Well, first of all, there are a large number of Muslims in the Netherlands who are Dutch. Dutch in the sense of, if one doesn't want to have an obviously racial understanding of what nationality is, Dutch in the sense that they were born here and that they speak Dutch as fluently as what you and the other Dutch participants here speak. And so Islam in the Netherlands is not an entirely outside phenomenon. There is no entirely outside Islam anywhere in the world in any case. The other interesting thing that I see happening, that there is a Dutchification taking place of Islam in the Netherlands. Islam, throughout the ages, where we may believe, or religious people may believe, that it fell out of the sky, it may have or it may not, that's not the point now, but Islam has, throughout the ages, been, in fact, a combination of the word as revealed and of social conditions. We see this, the variation between African Islam and different Islams in Africa, and say Indonesian Islam or Arab and Indo-Pak Islam. And what is in fact happening, that people are beginning to reinterpret, that's not the word that they use, they're often scared of these words, reinterpretation, rethinking, contextualization. People are scared of new words. But the reality is this, that people are beginning to creatively reinterpret their Islam in terms of the understanding and the conditions wherein they find themselves. And so there is a critique of the conditions wherein they find themselves, and at the same time, an unacknowledged, very strong move, particularly amongst the younger imams, towards this is our home, this is where we are planted, and this is where we're going to bloom. Lots of noise, sometimes kicking and dragging, sometimes willingly, unwillingly, but there is, and so I have no doubt that in the same way that Islam had gone to many other continents before, it bloomed there where it was planted. It was an amalgamation of the local and the unique. And so a Dutch kind of Islam will emerge in this country, and at the continent level, a European. People are talking about fiqh al-waqi, a local, a contextual fiqh. People are talking about fiqh al-aqaliyya, and the law, or a sharia, a law of minorities. These are different words that are beginning to emerge in the community, and I think that it bodes very well for the future of Islam in the Netherlands and in Europe.
Charles, what is your experience?
Well, I think that if you, for example, speak about Dutch Islam or the localization of Islam in any place of the world, I think the critical point is where people tap from their own experience in this new environment for putting Islam into a new shape. I think that's the critical process that's going on. And in that sense, I would say all kind of discussions taking place at the moment, be it about imams saying things or be it about whatever, is part of that process. I mean, that's what we see now, and that's the reason why I'm, well, not so pessimistic. There is a fierce discussion going on at the moment, and some people say, well, but we have to be afraid of that discussion because it can go out of hand. I think this discussion is just, it shows this process of localization of Islam, of people who are Muslims who say, I'm a Muslim and I'm inspired by a certain belief about Islam, but at the same time I'm a local, I'm somebody from here. Here I'm born, or here I live, and so I want to make sense of that new situation. I think that's an important process going on at the moment.
And I agree, but what I see as a point of concern, or even danger, is that there is so much Islam all the time associated with all kinds of problems that are taking place. And I sometimes feel that like the word Islam or the Islamic should be forbidden for a month. So we're all going to continue these discussions, and we're not going to use the word Islam, and we're not going to use the word Muslim. And I think we still continue having a debate about problems. But
well, the problem is not that, let's say, every day people are speaking about Islam, let's say in newspapers and in media. But the problem is that many who are not handicapped by any knowledge of Islam are speaking out on the subject. You see, what I'm struck with is that, you know, also certain writers in newspapers, they give you an article on Islam, and if you look, where do they get their information from other articles in other newspapers which has recently appeared, partly also written by people who are not really knowledgeable. So it would be already be very helpful if some, you know, proper information would be digested in the media.
Only academically approved.
No, I'm not saying that.
Ayan, do you share these rather positive views of the, say, possibility of Muslims to participate, and the idea of the localization of Islamic practices and beliefs?
And also for in the future.
In the future, yeah.
I have two ifs. I think it's possible. One if is if we Muslims remain in denial, if we remain defensive, if we put ourselves in a situation where we are always the victims of all sorts of external factors, then there will be no Islam of any sort. Nothing positive will come of that except a more deepening of the problems that are facing us Muslims. There is another if we succeed, and that's possible in Europe, I think, succeed in developing an individuality. Every Muslim becomes an individual, and every Muslim gets a chance to develop his reasoning and his cognitive skills. Then we might have an Islam, or we might have Muslims who will be able to choose from all the different types of Islams that are on offer. And I think that is, if we talk about a European Islam, that is going to look like a European Christianity, because there's all these different types of Christianity which is on offer. But the difference is that the Christian individual can choose, has extricated himself from his own group identity, has become an individual and can choose. And I think if Muslims succeed in creating individuals who can choose, we're going to have a very bright future.
So what do you think about this individual choice and Islam only being able to grow if people would have that kind of individuality?
I think any belief, any idea except fascism grows within the hearts and minds of individuals. Only fascism functions entirely with a group and a herd mentality. I have no wish to be identified with a fascist religion. In the words of the Quran, وَأَلَّيْسَ لِلْإِنسَانِ إِلَّا مَا سَعَى, that an individual, a person will have nothing but what he or she strives for. And so certainly, I mean, the individual spirit has to be cultivated with a deep commitment and a sense of belonging to where we come from, and that community that has sustained us and continues to sustain. You know, in the word Ubuntu in African culture is very important. I am because you are. I am not just because I am. I am because you are. You sustain me and I sustain you, and we are mirrors unto each other.
On this visionary view, I would like to close our discussion for today. Ladies and gentlemen, thank you very much. To the viewers at home, thank you for joining us.
Bij de NMO nu een portret van professor Dr. Nasser Abu Zaid. Onlangs ontving hij de Freedom of Worship Award van de Roosevelt Study Center.
Dinsdag 24 oktober 1995 vlucht KL 1706 naar Amsterdam. Aan boord een van de grootste islamitische denkers van onze tijd, Nasser Abu Zaid. Vanwege zijn te moderne interpretatie van de Koran moet hij vluchten uit Egypte. Aan boord neemt hij een belangrijke beslissing en vertelt hij aan zijn vrouw.
I remember very good because I will never forget this moment. I told her, listen, I don't want to go back.
En alhoewel elke geëmigreerde Egyptenaar het liefst in zijn eigen land begraven wil worden, neemt hij ook hierover een besluit.
If I die anywhere in the world, don't take my body back.
Professor Nasser Abu Zaid, op weg naar een nieuwe toekomst aan de Universiteit van Leiden.
For me, Nasr represents the very bright face and side of Islam, because he's through his courageousness and to read, and he can see what is the main trend, what is the main current, and he's supporting that. So from this, we needed him.
Als mens is Nasser een ontzettend gezellig mens. Goed lachs, heel plezierig. Zijn gestalte is ook typisch van de goedlachse dikkerd. Hij houdt van grappen en heeft heel veel voor mensen over.
He's a very kind person, a very good person. He's very loving to people. He loves very much to give to the others. He loves to be surrounded by people. He doesn't want to be living for himself.
A very honest, if few words, it will be a very honest, free thinker.
And he's very respectful, especially the most important quality he has. And that's why I married him at once, that he really respects women.
He's a professor. If you squeeze him, I think every part of him is scholarly.
He's not the macho, you know what I mean. He's very keen to that my career has to succeed as well as his, that we are equal, we are not, nobody is inferior to the other.